Yeah.
This is Bobby Okereke, inside linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, and you are tuning into the Blue Stable Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Blue Stable Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Ticket IQ. With the Colts season only about a month away, now is the time to start looking at tickets for expensive games like the Chiefs game on September 25th, which will probably cost you a few hundred for good seats. You'll want to save as much as possible. Ticket IQ has no checkout fees. That's right, no checkout fees, meaning the price you see is the price you pay. This comes in handy throughout the season and especially in the postseason. Save 10 to 20% versus a StubHub using Ticket IQ. Go to ticketiq.com now and start saving.
Man, give me my microphone back, Destin. What do you think this is? We know at the Blue Stable, we start the show off with myself, of course, and then we go to Rashad, and then we go to you, or whichever one. But anyways, welcome, everybody, back to the Blue Stable Podcast, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. Y'all already know how it goes. To help us grow, we are on the road to 1K subscribers. If you want to help us grow, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell because again, if you have been living under a rock, earlier today, Destin Adams, our very own Destin Adams, tweeted on Twitter that, tweeting on Twitter, get it, haha. Anyways, shout out Marcus for that. But anyways, we are going to be at, when I say we, the Blue Stable, our very own Destin Adams and our photographer, Luke Verkamp, who we have shouted out many times on this channel and on our spaces, they're going to be covering the Colts at training camp. Make sure you check them out. We're going to have exclusive content, interviews, all that good stuff. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you are up to date with everything that we got coming to you over here at this damn stable that is blue. Okay. So anyways, guys, let me get the guys back in here real quick. Okay. So Destin, Rashad, how you guys been?
Been good, man. I mean, it was exciting to get the official announcement that we were able to get the thumbs up to announce that we're going to be at training camp for some select dates this training camp session. So super excited to be out there, super excited to rep the Blue Stable. I don't know if I'm ever going to call it the stable that is blue though, Mike. So let's just never do that again. Let's just scratch that from your vocabulary.
Hey, if I got co-ownership, then I got co-decision making. Okay. So anyways, Rashad, man, talk to us. I know we call you money bags around here, man. What else did you buy this past weekend?
I didn't buy anything, man. I'm just excited to be here. Honored to have Jeff on. Maryland has some of my favorite players from the past, so I'm excited to pick his brain about Nick Cross and put this new series that we're doing, close it out really strong. I think Jeff's the perfect guy for it, and I can't wait to get to this conversation, man.
All right, money bags, we hear you. And as Rashad said already, stealing a little bit of the thunder, coming from Maryland, obviously, Jeff Ermann, welcoming to the Blue Stable. Obviously, you can catch him. He is the publisher of Inside MD Sports over at 24/7. You can also catch him over there as well. Great quality content all across the board. Okay, so Jeff, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I love the energy. I love the energy you guys got going. I'm glad to be on with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, obviously. And we love the energy Maryland sent to Indianapolis with one Nick Cross. So real quick, obviously, you guys know that we were going to talk about it. We put it out on Twitter. This show is going to be all about Cross. So, Jeff, let me open up the floor to you, buddy. The mic is yours. The floor is yours. Introduce yourself, and let's talk a little bit about Nick Cross.
In terms of myself, I published a site called Inside Maryland Sports, InsideMDSports.com. We've been doing this for about 17 years now, covering Maryland recruiting on a daily basis. Nick Cross is one of the more heralded recruits Maryland football has had in the past several years. He was a high 4-star recruit from DeMatha Catholic in Maryland, which is a national powerhouse. Maryland managed to kind of sneak ahead of Penn State and Florida State at the finish line to steal him away from those schools. It seemed for a while like he'd go to one of those two. Mike Loxley pulled off some of his magic and pulled him in. And, he had a really strong 3 years at Maryland, decided to leave after his junior year for the NFL, as obviously many guys of his talent do. And, I think the Colts got themselves a really good, promising player. I don't know if he's not going to be a star right away, but when you look at the measurables, I mean, he's a thick build kid, but also was the fastest, according to the coaches. When I asked them last year, he was the fastest player on the team. So to be a big kind of burly safety and be the fastest guy on the team tells you something. He was also a track star, which makes sense. And so, a great kid off the field, never any sort of issues. I think he was a great student as well. Just kind of a business-like approach to things, someone you don't have to worry about, the work ethic issues or character or things like that. So, all that kind of tells you why the Colts traded up and used that pick to get him.
So yeah, the Colts didn't just trade up, even they've kind of made a unprecedented future draft pick trade up. They didn't really have a fourth after a trade that they had made already. So when they ended up doing the trade up, they sent a fifth in this year and a future third to come up and get Nick Cross this year. And they kind of talked about a little bit why they made that decision, just saying that they didn't feel like there'd be a player even in next year's third round that they liked as much as Nick Cross. And so I guess one of the questions, just starting out is, everyone's talked about the athletic build, the speed you even mentioned. But like, what other aspects of his game, whether it's fundamental, whether it's instincts, that you think will help him translate to the next level, like right away?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing that stands out besides the speed is hitting ability. The guy is wrecking ball, absolute wrecking ball. One of the best tacklers, hardest hitters, I should say, that I've seen at Maryland since I've been covering them. I mean, if you go back and look at his film, he had a few hits where he absolutely destroyed. Sean Clifford is one, if you want to go back and look at the Penn State game. So he is a big time hitter. Some guys, you come up and they might be kind of fast and they might have good fundamentals, but you don't know, tackling's a whole different thing on the NFL level. He's a guy who's going to be an NFL tackler right away and can make plays in that way. Some guys just one of those guys who are just a blur, they come off the corner of the screen and bam, it's a fumble, that kind of thing. So he's got that kind of dynamic hitting ability.
Speaking of Nick Cross and his speed, was there a specific moment that you knew that this guy was going to be a really good player, or was it just kind of a cumulative body of work that you just knew over time that this guy was going to be a good one? I know he got a chance to play early due to injury. And was there a moment during his freshman year where you noticed this guy was going to be pretty good for you guys?
I don't know if there's one specific moment. He definitely had a few games where he made some big hits early on. Mm-hmm. Physically as a freshman, he was no different than the veterans. He's one of those physical freaks, obviously. So it wasn't really necessarily one moment, but I think, he made his share of plays on the ball. I think the biggest thing to me is, in terms of improvement, is in coverage. There were times where he had some coverage lapses as a safety. That's something he needs to work on, and you need to decide if he's going to be more of a strong safety or, covers well enough to be that free safety, which I think eventually he will be. But to me, that's the one area that shows for improvement. Otherwise, he's a guy who could be really good. And obviously, you guys have a Terps alum there as your head coach, and Frank Reich, so that probably didn't hurt. I'm sure he saw a little bit extra of him as opposed to other coaches. But no, not really a moment. You could just see it. Some guys are 4-star recruits for a reason, and you could just see it right away, and he's one of those guys.
One of the things that popped off to me about Nick Cross, especially as I started to study him a lot more after the pick was made, obviously after draft day, was that his angles as a safety prospect were some of the best in this class, if not the best in this class. The fact that he lasted till the third round is surprising to me, because obviously when you have mock drafts and everything, you always think this player will not be there at the time, especially if it might be a luxury pick. And hell, At the time, it was a luxury pick. You had Rodney McLeod. You already had Julian Blackmon on board. You had Kari Willis, who did just retire recently. So that opens up a lot of playing time for Nick Cross. But my thing, going back to the angles, what you see with young defensive backs in the NFL is they always tend to over pursue. They always tend to get in their heads a little bit, second guess, maybe doing a little too much, so to say. When it comes to his technique, I know angles, not over pursuing and all that is a big part of it. Was that something from day one he was just better than everybody, or did he learn that over time?
No, he got better over time for sure. There was a little bit of rawness at first. I mean, I think that a lot of that comes down, it's a combination of explosiveness, which he clearly had. I mean, his combine measurables were stellar, and then brains. He's a smart, intellectual kind of kid. So that's not really an issue with him. I think, at times you might wonder if his hips were a little tight maybe in coverage, but he's not going to be a cornerback, obviously. So you're not expecting, that kind of thing from him. But no, he got better as he went on, and he had good coaches throughout. He had good coaches in high school. He worked under Josh Wilson in high school, who had a long, successful NFL career, who also went to DeMatha, as did, I believe, Rodney McLeod, who you just mentioned, also went to DeMatha. So you guys have a thing going there. But no, he did improve, and I think he's one of those guys who, if he'd come back as a senior, maybe he's a first-round pick. But seeing where he got picked, you can never fault a guy for leaving after the junior year.
I mean, Mike mentioned that luxury pick aspect of it, and at the time when they decided to send the future third, I think the entire fan base went full on, oh my gosh, they're taking a quarterback here. That was just the entire mindset after a trade like that happened. Just because you don't see Ballard, especially on draft day, get rid of future draft picks. He tries to stockpile up, especially those day 2 picks. So when they decided to do that, it definitely put a fire under my butt a little bit that, oh man, they really like this kid. And I mean, obviously, Kari Willis ends up retiring about a month later. I have this feeling that the Colts knew a little bit about that. Kari Willis was away during the mini camp aspect of it, and they kept saying for personal reasons. I think there was a little bit of knowledge that was on his mind a little bit when the pick happened. So maybe that is kind of what sparked the need to trade the future pick for a guy they like in Nick Cross. The cool part also with the Colts, and what I was kind of wanting to get your take on a little bit, Gus Bradley, more than many defensive coordinators, likes to run 3 safety sets. So you mentioned the strong safety, you mentioned the free safety earlier, but the cool option is there's going to be that third roaming type safety. A lot of people have kind of mentioned similar to what Jamal Adams runs in the NFL. So if you had to pick any of those 3 realms of safety where you think Nick Cross would be the most successful at, which of those roles would it be?
Yeah, to me, it would clearly be that kind of roaming position when you have a guy who's fast, but not necessarily, coverage isn't his number one strength, but also hits like a truck like he does. Kind of like Maryland had another player named Antoine Brooks who came out a year or 2 before him. He's with the Steelers now. Similar thing, not as fast as Nick Cross, but, if you can put him in that hybrid kind of linebacker / safety role where you're able to take him out of as much coverage, but let him just be a heat-seeking missile, I think that would be an absolutely great fit for him.
Yeah, Nick Cross. I heard he didn't start actually playing football until high school, so he's kind of like a late bloomer, kind of learning things as he go, pretty much. I wanted to take a second to ask you about how was he off the field? Was he ever an issue? Did he ever have any problems? How was he in the locker room? Can you speak to his character a little bit?
I think he's a high character kid, had great grades. You're correct. He did not play till high school. His parents, I believe, immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago on his mom's side, and his dad from Jamaica. And so football wasn't really a thing for him. He wanted to play, and they finally let him play when he got to high school. So he did, as good of a player as he is, high draft pick, all this speed, everything else, he wasn't even a varsity starter, I think, until the very end of his sophomore or beginning of his junior year, because he was just learning how to play. So that tells you, I think, that, the upside is there. Whenever you have a guy like him, that athletic, who hasn't played that long, that means that they've probably got more room to grow as opposed to a guy who might have tapped out his potential. But in terms of character and things like that, I don't think there's any issues. None that I've heard.
Crotch discomfort hurting your game? Fear no more. The kings of crotch comfort, Manscaped, have spent 2 years designing the most comfortable boxers briefs out there. Sleek, soft, comfortable, and flexible. The brand new Boxers 2.0 from Manscaped take your package to the royal ball throne. The global leaders in below the waist grooming have the Lawnmower 4.0 for the trimming, so you can wear the Boxers 2.0 for the chilling. They even trademarked the jewel pouch, so you know it's serious. I think it's time you invest in your family jewels, so you let your package breathe and get 20% off plus free shipping by using our code BeStable20 at manscaped.com, sponsored by manscaped.com. Jeff Ermann, publisher of MD Sports, joining the Blue Stable podcast, everybody. I do want to talk about, if there was ever a moment, maybe this might be a question for Nick Cross himself, but asking you, who have been around him obviously a lot more than everybody that's probably watching this show, what was one moment that you think that really hit Nick Cross between the eyes as a football player and really helped him take it up a notch to be a better player that he became in his junior year?
Well, there was a spell. It was only a game or two, I believe it was during his sophomore year, maybe early on, where he wasn't playing that well, or they didn't like how he was practicing, and so he missed a start or two. They started another guy in his place one game or two, and then you saw him kind of the light turn on a little bit, and maybe that would wake anybody up, obviously, especially when you're a guy 4-star recruit, you're expecting to just have smooth sailing. So I would say, when that happened, I believe it was early in his sophomore year, he reclaimed the job and, kind of took it up a little bit from there.
So there's another Maryland rookie in the division, a tight end in Tennessee, that you may even be able to find a clip where I was hyping him up a little bit before the draft, but no longer, of course, because he's in Tennessee. But I didn't know if you had any knowledge on if Nick Cross and I don't want to botch the pronunciation here, but is it Okonkwo?
Okonkwo. Big Okonkwo, yeah.
Hey, it was closer than I thought it'd be. I'm not gonna lie.
Had a couple extra syllables.
Yeah, that's my thing. I like to add instead of subtract. But any thoughts on if there was a relationship between those two prior to this draft, where they're going to be playing each other for quite some time after being teammates?
Yeah, I mean, they were in the same class, I believe. I can't remember if Chig came in 1 year earlier, but they're effectively the same age and came up together. Cross was a much more heralded recruit. Okonkwo had some good offers coming out of high school, but he wasn't, the All-American guy that Cross was. And, he's a really good player. I can see why you hyped him up. I've read about how they love him in Tennessee. He's a dynamic kind of guy, tight end, not like all these 6'6" dudes we see running around on every team catching passes. He's only probably 6'2". So he's more of a H-back kind of guy, but a really dynamic guy with the ball in his hands. And, in terms of, I'm sure they're close, having come up together, but those are the kind of guys Maryland seems to put out, even though they've struggled in recent years to win a ton of games just year after year. When you look at the guys they put out, these two guys, and then obviously I saw a list of the top 100 players in the NFL the other day. It had 3 Maryland players: Stephon Diggs, J.C. Jackson, and DJ Moore. So they continue to put out those kind of athletes.
Dustin keeps on segueing perfectly into the type of questions I have. I don't know if we have a mental connection going on. I appreciate it though, because last time we had a beat writer on, while I watch some of these players, when I go back after they're drafted, I tend to watch a game or two. Like I watched the Maryland versus Michigan State game. It was a big time game, and I couldn't help but notice Rakeem Jarrett. I need you to tell me a little bit about this guy. The Colts is in the market for a wide receiver. So next year, he may be on our radar. I'm going to bug everybody that comes on here about a wide receiver because I want a wide receiver so bad. So tell me a little bit about Rakeem.
He's a really talented kid. He's a 5-star recruit. So, Maryland's not racking up a lot of 5-stars. They stole him from LSU. He was committed to LSU for quite a while, and they snagged him away at the last minute. One of the top receivers in the country. Probably not quite at that Diggs, DJ Moore level. Very few guys are. I mean, you're talking top 100 in the NFL, but a really good player. Been really good his first 2 years. He can make the deep catch. He's very strong and physical and stout, so he can make the third down kind of catch. So he can do a little bit of everything. He's got good hands, very physical, good speed. Not the absolute like top line blazing speed, but good speed. So I think he's potentially he should be a top 3 round pick, I would guess, depending on how he does this year. He's produced each of his first 2 years. I think he had about 800 yards last year, which is good when you consider that they have another receiver named Dante Demas, who was slated to potentially be a first rounder, had a very serious injury. So once he went down early in the season, defenses were keying in on Jarrett the whole way. So that 800 yards is a little more impressive because of that. But yeah, he's definitely, I don't blame you for keeping an eye on him, because he should be, I would think a top 10 receiver, maybe in next year's draft at worst.
Yeah, and when Big Ten defenses are focusing in on a guy, that's going to be tough to overcome. Mike wouldn't know any of that in the Big 12, but it's a tough thing to overcome over here in the Big
defense
10.
in the Big
Destin,
12?
what the hell has Indiana done in football? What man? Rashad, you and I are the only people that know about winning this last decade in football, so I'm not even going to go there.
Indiana was pretty good a couple of years ago. They did have that.
First time they reached 8 wins in like 20 years, right?
We had that little glimpse of hope last season. I'm just going to call it nothing. Didn't exist, wasn't real.
Right.
But in general, just had to poke it there at the Big 12.
He gave Tom Allen that he got that massive contract and then fell on his face last year, so the pressure's got to be on.
Hey, Tom Allen deserves a lot better than Bloomington. I'll just say that he needs to be somewhere where winning is wanted. I'll just put that out there.
Mike,
but I do agree with you.
We're in the Indiana market. I swear.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Big 12 defenses need to get up
Maryland,
there, but
it's a basketball school like Maryland, right? They're very similar in that way.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, the last Big Ten team that won a national championship was like when I was like 1 year old. But anyway, we don't have to go there, Rashad, your team has won more championships, obviously. But anyway, guys, we're here to talk about the Colts, of course. But I want to segue into a little bit of what Nick Cross can possibly do with the Colts now, because obviously, like we mentioned earlier in the show, Khari Willis retired. He was the starting safety. There are some that speculated he could lose his job to the rookie. I wasn't there. Destin was one of them that supported it. He could see it, but that was a hot topic. Now it's looking like it's going to be between Nick Cross and Rodney McLeod. Vet coach Ron Miles, who has been everywhere, done everything in this league, I don't think he would opt for the rookie over the vet who's won a championship, been on a great defense. But going forward in his first year, if there's one thing that you think is going to help him, that's going to help him maybe even start, maybe even, dare I say, win defensive rookie of the year, because obviously there's going to be a lot of snaps that would help him win that award. What do you think one trait that he has is going to help him day one?
I think the speed, the speed and athleticism. Again, when you have a guy who's, I don't even remember what he's listed at. It's probably 215, 220, whatever it is. And runs a 4.3, a legit 4.33. When you put a guy that makes up for a lot of mistakes when you run that fast. That's not something you can that you can study up to, just like in basketball. You can't teach height, same kind of thing. So I think that'll help him a lot. I think you'll see him make some plays. If he's getting on the field, he's going to make some plays. There's also going to be probably some times where there's some lapses. But if they end up running the 3 safety set that you mentioned and can get him into that rover position, I think that would probably be a perfect way for him to thrive right away.
Yeah, for a safety to win defensive rookie of the year, basically any of those accolades, there are just certain stats that, like the sack number, if he's playing in that rover role, could get him in the conversation. Turnovers are always going to matter for DBs when it comes time. I mean, we saw a corner in Dallas who may or may not be a top level corner, have a very good interception season.
He's not.
I mean, but he was up there in the accolades because he was doing so well in that category. Like, that's just the NFL. Like, you're gonna have to lead in those type of categories for a rookie for him to be in that picture. But I also don't think he has to be in the defensive rookie of the year conversation for that pick to work or the year to be a success for Cross. I just think a lot of what he can do, especially with the hits, especially with the speed and playing multiple roles, I think there are multiple ways he can impact the game that aren't stat sheet stuffers in a way. But Jeff, another thing we've been doing with the guys that have come on is we've been kind of asking them to call their shot on a stat for the rookie. And I know safety is going to be a little harder, so I'm not going to limit you by giving you a specific stat to predict. But if you had to pick a stat, whether it's tackles, forced fumbles, interceptions, and you could be as hot takey as you want. Just if you had to call your shot on any stat for Nick Cross in his rookie year, what would it be?
Give us 8 sacks, Jeff. Come on.
Got to be forced fumbles because he's, like I said, he's one of those heat-seeking missile guys who just pops off, comes out of nowhere, bam, and the ball's on the ground. You know, obviously that depends on how much he's playing, right? I can't say he's going to do this or that if he ends up, just playing special teams. If he gets significant snaps, I'll say he'll force 3 fumbles next season, at least 3 forced fumbles next season if he plays, semi full-time snaps. That's my hot take.
So you add Nick Cross's 3 forced fumbles to whatever Darius Leonard has on the year, which will be league leading, and those 2 players combined may lead NFL teams in forced fumbles.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's just a matter of getting him onto the field, and getting him acclimated. That's the thing. You just never know. You never know with the rookie, even the first round guys. You don't know what you're getting. So. But that was his thing in Maryland. If you go back and look at the clips, he was a heat-seeking missile. Like I keep saying, he'd knock the ball loose. So and he had his share of picks. He's not a ball hawk. He's not a guy he's not like Trayvon Diggs, who you mentioned. He's not going to get a ton of interceptions. But forced fumbles would be my guess.
I will say for you, just to know, like, the Colts are not afraid to play young guys. They've actually been known where if a young guy's out playing a guy in camp, like, they'll put him on the field. They don't care. I think the part where it'll help Nick Cross a lot is they love guys who are even able or willing to play special teams early. So if for whatever reason they don't feel like he should be starting in a safety role right away, he'll definitely get special team snaps. I can't imagine a guy of that athleticism and that built not being out there. But again, with that 3 safety sets, I just can't imagine he's not on the field. I think that rover position is just made for a guy like Cross, because you mentioned the coverage aspect of it, but he's able to cover up so much ground that even if you're going to have a couple lapses in coverage, like, you could almost make up for a lot of it at times, especially when you're young, because there's going to be those little lapses in coverage either way, no matter if you come in as just a top tier coverage guy as a DB. So I'm really excited to see what Cross's role is. And if he gets at least 3 forced fumbles, we'll make sure to clip this for you so you can look like a genius.
Hit me back. Yeah, tweet it at me so I can retweet it.
Okay, real quick for everybody watching, I got to put a disclaimer in here. We're not saying Nick Cross is going to pop off his rookie year, because Jeff, I'm not sure if you're involved with Colts media, but the second this dude allows a touchdown, he's a mistake on draft day. It's the wrong trade. He can't play football. Chris Ballard sucks at drafting. The minute something goes wrong, even if it's game 1, even if it's against the Texans, and he over jumps a route and it allows a first down or something, oh, who is this guy? Y'all talked him up. Like, I'm trying to, because I know where people are heading. We're talking like this guy is going to be there. He's going to put on Jamal Adams numbers. He's going to be there like Tyrann Mathieu. I just had to put that in there because I'm not looking forward to the day he allows a first down or touchdown, and now everybody says Nick Cross sucks.
Are you trying to say that NFL fans aren't rational?
Basically.
The most irrational football fan is saying that to you, Jeff, by the way. But one thing I wanted to say about Nick before we wrap it up, Gus Bradley last year with the Raiders, the way he used Jonathan Abram around the line of scrimmage, they're about the same height. Nick Cross is actually a little bigger and a little bit faster. I think that's the role you can see Nick fill early on. And as he gets more comfortable in that role, then you see him do some things on the back end, playing the post in the deep half. But I think they really want to just get his feet wet around the line of scrimmage, keep it real simple for him and allow him to play fast. And that's what's going to give him an advantage in his rookie year. I think Gus will make it a lot easier for him than if he was asked to come in and be a single high deep safety, where he'll be exposed to a lot of different things early, and people will pick on him and take advantage of just not having the mental side of it yet. You know, when a player just comes in, you want to keep it simple, allow him to play fast, and use his strengths to his benefit. That's what I my take on it. Hopefully, is what the coach do with him.
So, of course, Nick Cross is going to be Bob Sanders 2.0 day one. Anything else is a failure as a franchise. Ship it up, sell us back to Baltimore, if otherwise. But any final thoughts, Jeff, that you really want Colts fans to leave with about who Nick Cross is? Maybe a funny story that you remember from Cross's time at Maryland? Anything that you want to leave Colts fans with that they may have not heard from just the normal social media encounters?
I don't really have a funny story, to be honest. I think the things about him are just, as I mentioned, he's a real high upside guy. It's not that often that you get the size, the speed, the physicality, and also the intelligence and work ethic all together. And that's why they traded up for him, obviously. So, I think I don't have a funny story because I don't think he's one of those goofball kind of guys. He's more of just about my business, go to college. I'm focused on getting the NFL kind of dude. So I think they got a really good player. I don't know if he'll be a star right away, despite my guarantee of 3 forced fumbles next year. But I think long term, he's going to be a really good player.
Well, I do got one more for you, Jeff, because I heard Destin say Bob Sanders, and it made me think. Before, I got to put you on the spot here. If there's one player that you got to compare him to that you would expect, you think he has this type of career, who would you compare him to?
That's a really good one. I mean, I think physically, he reminds me a little bit of LaRon Landry, who played for the Redskins a few years back and was a very high draft pick out of LSU.
Former Colt, Jeff. Former
Colt as well.
Yeah, yes. Super athletic, didn't quite live up to the hype, but physically similar. And he was good early in his career, and then I think he must have decided to become a professional bodybuilder or something, because I've never seen anybody as jacked as he was on the field. But
still get thrown around.
Similarity there, and he could be a poor man's Bob Sanders. There could be some similarities there too. You're not going to say he's going to be that level of player, but just stylistically, you might be able to make a comparison.
I like it. Don't go too high. Don't go too low. Don't put too high expectations on him. I like it. Well,
as long as he doesn't use a similar substances that old LaRon Landry used, I'll be good.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's that kind of guy. Landry was, that was an interesting case, but pre that, I think there might be some similarities. So
Destin, don't be jealous.
I think Nick Cross will be fine. I just remember LaRon Landry's stint in Indianapolis, and he was a guy that you could just look at and you're like, oh, on steroids, 1,000% bet the house on it. And then I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks in where he got the suspension in Indy. But I'd be down for the physicality of LaRon Landry. Just minus the abundance of pecs and arms that we had to see from some substances.
Don't be jealous, Destin. Come on now. This isn't a jealous, let it out. That's not what this is.
I could take steroids tomorrow. I'm not a professional athlete.
Yeah, technically. Rashad, could you? They drug test you down there?
Rashad's so skinny.
So I would not say.
Rashad is so skinny. The moment he took steroids, man, he's got to fit all those suits he just bought.
They're gonna hand me the cup. Just take the cup, kid.
Right.
Come on.
I remember when I met up with you in not trying to disclose the location, but when I met up with you and I was able to hug you, it was like hugging a stick. Like, it was like, dang, I just swallowed this man.
Thanks for telling the world that we hugged, Michael. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Hey,
Thanks,
well,
man.
you opened your arms first, all right? So I just got, I think I did. I don't know, man. But anyways,
Time to go,
guys,
Mike.
it has been fun having Jeff Ermann, publisher of MD Sports. Go find him on 24/7. You will see all of that. If you are a Terps fan, anything, you will find that in the description below. Jeff, any other closing remarks, man, for Colts fans, what they could expect from Nick Cross, or maybe a pleasure you had covering him?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. I'll just say I'll be up there to watch my Commanders beat you guys down this year. That's all I got to say.
That's personal. That's
Wow.
personal.
Whoa.
You got to remember that.
Whoa.
There are some stipulations in the Commanders Indy bloodline now. Here, we can't go too deep here.
Well, this is a real question. Who's going to be the quarterback of Washington?
Carson Wentz.
I'll go Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, now Michael is a weird Taylor Heineke fan, Jeff. Heineke seems like a good dude.
Heineke's fun to watch. He's just he's either making a great play or making an awful play.
So you're gonna love Carson Wentz.
You're gonna love Carson Wentz, absolutely.
I would say Carson Wentz has had his ups and downs in recent years, but his level of accomplishment is quite a bit beyond anything that Heineke has ever approached. So you at least hope.
I agree.
The floor is a lot higher than Heineke's floor.
Having Heineke for the past couple of seasons I think it'll help your fan base embrace Carson Wentz. I think the big thing for the Colts fans that is always going to be there is they've watched Peyton Manning, they watched Andrew Luck, and we went to Phillip Rivers. We don't have to talk about the Jacoby Brissett year before Phillip Rivers. So then when Carson Wentz is compared to those level of guys, I think that added to the distaste in the mouth. But I promise you, Carson Wentz after Taylor Heineke, like you guys are going to feel like you won the Super Bowl just right there.
Everything's relative.
Yeah,
Well,
what I can say about him is he definitely will elevate the ceiling of that team, and I felt like that last year with the Colts. You know, I wasn't against getting Carson, and I wasn't even on the train of we just got to get rid of Carson by all means. I never felt like that. I know a lot of people in the fan base do, and I don't argue with people about that. But one thing I can say, physically, what he can do at times, he definitely is going to elevate the ceiling of that team. So, you know, and we should be pushing for him to play because we need to upgrade that pick from a third round to a second rounder. So we need him to get as many starts as possible. So I'm cheering for him, man.
Yeah, he can elevate the ceiling of his offense or the ceiling of the opposing defense. So he'll do one of the two. Jeff, if you are open to it, man, we would like to have this conversation again when we battle the Washington Commanders. If you would like to have that conversation again, the door is always open, my man. We can talk all the Carson Wentz we want on that show.
After that game, hit me up.
There you go. Already. Here we go. Jeff Ermann will be back, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, let's get him on with his day as well. So, Jeff, again, thank you for your time. It has been a pleasure. Best of luck with you over there at 24/7. I know quite a few people over there. Y'all do great work. It's a great franchise, great organization, and I just wish you all the best of luck, man.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, guys. This has been the Blue Stable Podcast. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and we will see you guys later.